Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Marina Caldwell stared at the email notification on her phone screen. The subject line read, "Annual Performance Bonus Congratulations." Her thumb hovered over the message for a moment before she tapped it open. $38,000. The number sat there in black text against the white background. Marina set her phone down on her desk and looked out the window of her Seattle office. Rain streaked the glass, typical for October. She had worked 60-hour weeks for the past year, taken on projects no one else wanted, and fixed problems that should have been someone else's responsibility. Every late night, every weekend spent at the office, every missed dinner with friends had led to this moment. $38,000. Real money. Life-changing money. Marina opened her laptop and pulled up the real estate listings she had bookmarked months ago. Mountain cabins in the Cascades. Small places, nothing fancy, but with views that stretched for miles and silence that money couldn't buy in the city. She had been saving for years, setting aside whatever she could from her salary. The bonus would be enough for a down payment. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "What you earn, you guard. Nobody else will." Janet Monroe had scrubbed floors and worked double shifts at the diner to keep food on the table after Marina's father left. She had taught Marina that independence meant never depending on anyone else's money and never letting anyone else control yours. Marina clicked through photos of a cabin near Snoqualmie Pass. Cedar walls, stone fireplace, deck overlooking pine trees. The listing price was reasonable. With her bonus as a down payment and her steady income, she could make it work. Her phone buzzed with a text from Griffin. "Dinner at Mom and Dad's tonight. 6 p.m. Don't be late." Marina closed the laptop. Griffin never asked if she had plans. He just assumed she would drop everything for his parents. She gathered her things and headed for the parking garage, already dreading the evening ahead. The Caldwell house sat in a wealthy neighborhood north of Seattle, the kind of place where lawns stayed perfect year-round and driveways never had oil stains. Marina pulled up behind Griffin's truck and sat for a moment, watching warm light spill from the windows. Through the glass, she could see Lorna Caldwell moving around the kitchen, probably putting finishing touches on whatever elaborate meal she had prepared. Marina grabbed her purse and walked to the front door. Before she could knock, Griffin opened it. "You're 5 minutes late," he said, not smiling. "Traffic," Marina replied. She followed him through the foyer and into the dining room, where Richard Caldwell was already seated at the head of the table, scrolling through his phone. "Marina," Richard said without looking up, "Griffin says you got some kind of bonus at work." "Dad, don't spoil it," Griffin said. "I want to tell them the news properly." Marina felt something cold settle in her stomach. She took her usual seat across from Griffin, while Lorna brought out platters of food roast chicken, garlic potatoes, green beans that had been cooked until they were gray. "This looks wonderful, Lorna," Marina said, because it was expected. "Well, I hope you're hungry," Lorna replied, settling into her chair. "Griffin says we have something to celebrate." Griffin grinned and reached across the table to squeeze his mother's hand. "Mom, Dad, guess what? We're all going to Paris." Marina's bonus covered it. The words hit Marina like a physical blow. She set down her fork and stared at her husband. "What? Paris?" Lorna clapped her hands together. "Oh, Griffin, really? When?" "I was thinking next month," Griffin said, still grinning. "Before the weather gets too cold. We could see the Louvre, maybe take a river cruise." Marina's bonus is enough to cover flights and hotels for all four of us. "Griffin," Marina said slowly, "we haven't talked about this." "Finally," Lorna said, ignoring Marina completely. "You're treating us the way family deserves. I was starting to wonder if you understood what it means to be a Caldwell." Richard looked up from his phone for the first time since Marina had arrived. "About time you gave back. You wouldn't have this life without our son." Marina felt her face grow hot. "I'm sorry, what life?" "The nice apartment, the steady job, the connections Griffin's made for you," Richard said. "You think you'd have any of that without him?" Marina looked at Griffin, waiting for him to correct his father. Griffin had never gotten her a job or made any connections for her. She had built her career herself, working her way up from an entry-level position while Griffin bounced between different sales jobs. Griffin said nothing. I never agreed to pay for a trip to Paris, Marina said. The room went quiet. Lorna set down her wine glass and stared at Marina. Excuse me, I said I never agreed to pay for a trip to Paris. Griffin made this plan without asking me. It's just money, Marina, Griffin said. Don't be dramatic. $38,000 isn't just money. See, Lorna said to Richard. I told you she was selfish. All she thinks about is herself. Marina felt something shift inside her chest. Not anger, something colder and more permanent. Selfish for wanting to discuss how to spend my own bonus. Our bonus, Griffin said. We're married. Remember? Your bonus that you wouldn't have without the opportunities Griffin gave you, Richard added. The least you can do is show some gratitude. Marina looked around the table at their faces. Lorna's mouth was pinched with disapproval. Richard was shaking his head like she had said something deeply offensive. Griffin was staring at his plate, refusing to meet her eyes. No, Marina said. No what? Lorna demanded. No, I won't pay for a trip to Paris. No, I don't owe anyone gratitude for money I earn myself. And no, Griffin didn't give me any opportunities. I built my career myself. How dare you? Lorna said, her voice rising. How dare you sit at my table and insult my son? I'm not insulting him. I'm stating facts. Facts? Richard laughed, but there was no humor in it. The fact is you married into this family, and families take care of each other. Or did your white trash mother not teach you that? Marina set her napkin on the table and stood up. Don't talk about my mother. I'll talk about whatever I want in my own house, Richard said. Your mother raised a selfish brat who doesn't understand family loyalty. Richard, Griffin said quietly, but he still wouldn't look at Marina. No, Griffin, she needs to hear this, Lorna said. Marina, you have ruined our family trip. All you think about is yourself. We have friends who are expecting to hear about our Paris vacation. And now, what am I supposed to tell them? Tell them to pay for their own vacations, Marina said. That's enough, Richard said, standing up. You will apologize to my wife right now. Marina looked at Griffin one more time, giving him a chance to stand up for her, to tell his parents they were out of line. Instead, he was cutting his chicken into smaller and smaller pieces, his jaw clenched. I'm going home, Marina said. Good, Lorna said. And don't come back until you're ready to act like part of this family. Marina walked to the front door, grabbed her coat from the closet, and left. Behind her, she could hear Lorna's voice rising again, something about ungrateful wives and family obligations. She got in her car and drove home, her hand steady on the steering wheel. Their apartment was dark when she arrived. Marina turned on the lights and sat on the couch, staring at the wall. The fight replayed in her head, but she felt strangely calm. For the first time in her marriage, she had said no to the Caldwells and meant IT. An hour later, Griffin's truck pulled into the parking lot. Marina heard his footsteps on the stairs, heard his key in the lock. He came into the living room and stood in the doorway, looking at her. They're upset, he said. I know. You embarrassed them in front of their own dinner table. Marina turned to look at him. I told the truth. The truth. Griffin shook his head. The truth is they've done so much for us, Marina. Dad helped me get my job at the dealership. Mom watches our place when we're out of town. They treat you like their own daughter. No, they don't. Yes, they do. And tonight you threw it back in their faces. Marina stood up and faced him. Griffin, they call my mother white trash. They said I owe them gratitude for money I earn myself. They planned an expensive vacation and expected me to pay for it without asking. How is any of that treating me like family? It's just money, Griffin said again. You act like $38,000 is some huge fortune. It's my bonus. I worked for it. We're married. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours. That's how marriage works. Marina stared at him. What's yours? Griffin, you don't have anything. You spend your paycheck before you get it. You've never saved a dime in your life. That's not true. Show me your savings account. Griffin's face reddened. That's not the point. That's exactly the point. You want to spend my money on your parents because you don't have any money of your own. They're our parents now, Marina. When you married me, you married into the family. That comes with responsibilities, like paying for their vacations, like showing them respect and gratitude. Marina felt that cold feeling in her chest again, spreading outward until it reached her fingers and toes. She looked at her husband, really looked at him. The weak chin he hid behind a carefully trimmed beard. The way he stood with his shoulders hunched when he was defensive. The complete absence of backbone when his parents attacked his wife. "I'm going to bed," she said. "Marina, wait. Let's talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about. I'm not paying for your parents' vacation." "Don't be dramatic," Griffin said. "They'll get over it. Just apologize tomorrow, and we can all move on." Marina walked past him toward the bedroom. "I'm not apologizing, Marina." She closed the bedroom door behind her and locked it. Through the wood, she could hear Griffin pacing in the living room, muttering to himself. Eventually, the pacing stopped, and she heard the television turn on. Marina sat on the edge of the bed and opened her laptop. The real estate listing was still there, the cabin with the stone fireplace and the view of pine trees. She clicked through to the contact information and started typing an email to the listing agent. She was done being married to Griffin Caldwell. It was just a matter of when and how. Marina woke up at 5 in the morning, 2 hours before her alarm. Griffin was still asleep on the couch, one arm hanging off the side, mouth open. She made coffee in the kitchen as quietly as possible and checked her email on her phone. The real estate agent had already responded. The cabin was still available, and she could schedule a viewing for the weekend. Marina typed back a quick confirmation and hit send. T7. Griffin stumbled into the kitchen, his hair sticking up on one side. "Coffee smells good," he said, like nothing had happened the night before. Marina poured herself a travel mug and capped it. "I made enough for you two." "Thanks." Griffin rubbed his eyes. "Listen, about last night. I need to get to work," Marina said. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "Marina, wait. Mom called this morning. She wants to talk to you." Marina paused with her hand on the doorknob. "Tell her I'm busy. She's really upset about the Paris thing." "Good." Marina left before Griffin could say anything else. She drove to the office with her hands gripped tight on the steering wheel, already planning her next moves. At lunch, Marina walked to the bank branch near her office. She opened a new checking account in her name only and transferred her bonus funds. Then she called her boss and requested that her future paychecks be deposited into the new account instead of the joint account she shared with Griffin. "Any particular reason for the change?" her boss asked. "Personal financial planning," Marina said. "I want to keep better track of my savings." "No problem. The change will take effect with your next paycheck." Marina hung up and felt something like relief wash over her. For the first time in her marriage, her money would be completely under her control. That evening, she stopped at the grocery store on the way home and ran into Callie Monroe in the produce section. Callie lived in the apartment next door and tended bar at a restaurant downtown. She was 28, had survived a messy divorce 2 years earlier, and never sugarcoated anything. "You look like hell," Callie said, dropping a bag of apples into her cart. "Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. What's wrong?" Griffin being his usual charming self, Marina glanced around the store to make sure no one was listening. "Can I ask you something? Hypothetically, sure. If you were married to someone whose parents expected you to pay for their expensive vacation, and your husband thought that was completely reasonable, what would you do?" Callie raised one eyebrow. "Hypothetically, I'd tell them all to go to hell." "What if it was more complicated than that?" "It's never more complicated than that, Marina. Either your husband has your back, or he doesn't. Either he stands up to his parents when they're wrong, or he doesn't. Everything else is just noise." Marina pushed her cart toward the checkout line. Callie followed. "You want some free advice?" Callie said. "Do I have a choice?" "Girl, don't yell. Don't fight. Don't give them the satisfaction of seeing you lose your temper. Just let them dig their own hole while you build your ladder out." Marina paid for her groceries and walked to the parking lot with Callie beside her. "I'm serious," Callie said. "The best revenge is living well while they figure out how badly they screwed up. What if they never figure it out? Then they're idiots, and you're better off without them." At home, Griffin was on the phone with his mother when Marina walked in. She could hear Lorna's voice through the receiver, high-pitched and agitated. "I know, Mom. I'll talk to her again," Griffin was saying. "No, she didn't mean it. She's just stressed about work." Marina unpacked her groceries and started making dinner. Griffin hung up and came into the kitchen. Mom wants you to call her, he said. I'm not calling her. She's really hurt, Marina. She spent all day crying. Marina cracked eggs into a pan. She'll get over it. This isn't like you. You're usually so good with my parents. Usually I don't tell them the truth. Maybe that was my mistake. Griffin leaned against the counter. What's that supposed to mean? It means I've been pretending to be someone I'm not for the sake of keeping peace. But apparently, peace was never really an option. Of course it was. All you have to do is apologize. Marina flipped the eggs and looked at him. For what? For embarrassing them. For being rude at dinner. I wasn't rude. I said no to paying for their vacation. You humiliated my mother in her own house. Your mother humiliated herself by assuming she could spend my money without asking. Griffin's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and frowned. It's Dad. He answered on the third ring. Hi, Dad. No, she's right here. What? When did you? Griffin's face went white. The card was declined? Marina turned off the stove and gave Griffin her full attention. I don't understand, Griffin said into the phone. There should be plenty of money in there. I just got paid last week. He paused, listening. Okay, let me call the bank. I'll figure this out. Griffin hung up and looked at Marina. Dad tried to book the Paris tickets today, and our credit card was declined. What credit card? Our joint card. The one connected to our checking account. Marina felt a smile tug at the corner of her mouth. Oh, that card. What do you mean, oh, that card? There's supposed to be money in that account. There's money in that account. Just not enough for 4 plane tickets to Paris. Griffin stared at her. Where's your bonus? In my account. What account? My personal account. The one you don't have access to. Griffin's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You move the money. I move my money, yes. Marina, that's our money. We're married. Funny. Last night you seemed to think it was your parents' money. Griffin ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. You can't just move our savings without telling me. Griffin, we don't have savings. You spend every penny you make. The only money in our joint account is what I put there for my regular paycheck. But the bonus is mine. I earned it. I decided what to do with it. Griffin grabbed his phone and started dialing. I'm calling the bank. Go ahead. Marina finished cooking her eggs and sat down at the kitchen table to eat. Through the wall, she could hear Griffin talking to a customer service representative, his voice getting louder and more frustrated as he tried to explain why his wife's money should be available to him. 20 minutes later, he came back into the kitchen. They said you moved the funds to a different account, he said. That's correct. They said I can't access it without your permission. Also correct. Griffin sat down across from her. Marina, you're being crazy. This isn't how married couples handle money. Really? How do married couples handle money, Griffin? They discuss major financial decisions together, like spending $38,000 on a vacation. Griffin's face reddened. That's different. How is it different? Because it's for family. Marina finished her eggs and rinsed her plate in the sink. If you want to take your parents to Paris, you're welcome to pay for it yourself. I can't afford 4 tickets to Paris. Then I guess you can't take them to Paris. Griffin followed her into the living room. Marina, please. They've been planning this all day. Mom called her friends to tell them about the trip. Dad looked up restaurants online. They're so excited. They plan a trip with money they don't have. That's not my problem. It is your problem. You're married to me. Marina sat on the couch and opened her laptop. Griffin, let me ask you something. In the 5 years we've been married, how many times have your parents paid for anything for us? They don't need to pay for things. They're retired. They're not that retired. Your father still consults for his old company. Your mother gets Social Security and a pension. That doesn't mean they have money for trips. But somehow I'm supposed to have money for their trips? Griffin sat down beside her. Marina, please. Just this once. After this, we'll discuss big purchases together, I promise. Marina looked at him. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. I'm not paying for your parents' vacation. Not this time, not next time, not ever. Griffin stood up and started pacing. Fine. I'll figure something else out. How? I don't know. Maybe I can get a loan. With what collateral? Griffin, you don't own anything. Your truck is financed. You don't have a savings account. You have $10,000 in credit card debt. I'll figure it out, Griffin said again, but his voice was getting smaller. Marina closed her laptop and looked at him. Here's an idea. Tell your parents the truth. Tell them you don't have the money for a trip to Paris, and you assumed you could spend my bonus without asking me. I can't tell them that. Why not? Because they'll be disappointed. They're going to be disappointed anyway when they find out there's no trip. Griffin stopped pacing and stared at her. You really won't change your mind? No, even if it means my parents hate you. Griffin, your parents already hate me. The only difference is now I'm not pretending otherwise. Griffin left the apartment at 8 o'clock the next morning, claiming he had early appointments at the dealership. Marina knew he was lying. He was probably driving around, trying to figure out what to tell his parents. She drove to work with the radio, turned up loud, singing along to songs she normally would have found annoying. At lunch, she called the real estate agent and scheduled a viewing of the cabin for Saturday morning. It's a beautiful property, the agent said. Very private. The previous owners used it as a weekend retreat. That's exactly what I'm looking for, Marina said. That evening, Griffin came home looking like he hadn't slept in days. Any luck with the loan? Marina asked. Griffin shook his head. The bank said no. I don't qualify. What about your parents? Can they contribute anything? Dad's been paying for Mom's medical bills. Her arthritis medication is expensive. Marina felt a tiny flicker of sympathy, but she pushed it down. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Yes, Griffin. I'm sorry your mother has arthritis. I'm not sorry that I won't pay for her vacation. Griffin's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and his face went pale. It's Mom, he said. What do I tell her? Tell her the truth. Griffin answered the phone. Hi, Mom. No, not yet. I'm still working on it. He paused, listening. Tomorrow? Are you sure that's a good idea? Marina raised her eyebrows. Griffin covered the phone with his hand. They want to go to the airport tomorrow, he whispered. They think I'm surprising them with the tickets at the gate. Marina stared at him. What did you tell them? I told them it might be a surprise. Griffin, that's not a surprise. That's a lie. Griffin spoke into the phone again. Mom, maybe you should wait a few more days. I'm still finalizing some details. Another pause. No, I can't tell you what time to be there yet. The travel agent is still working on it. He hung up and looked at Marina with panic in his eyes. They're going to show up at the airport, he said. Yes, they are. They're going to find out there are no tickets. Yes, they are. Marina, please. You can stop this. Just pay for the tickets. Marina stood up and walked to the kitchen. No, they'll be humiliated. There will be other people around. They'll look like fools. Then you should call them and tell them not to go to the airport. I can't. Why not? Because then I'll look like a fool. Marina turned to face him. Griffin, you are a fool. You promised your parents a trip you couldn't afford. You tried to spend money that wasn't yours. You've been lying to them for days. You already look like a fool. Griffin slumped against the counter. What am I supposed to do? Grow up. The next morning, Marina woke up early and drove to a spa in Oregon, 2 hours south of Seattle. She had booked a full-day package massage, facial, hot stone treatment. She turned off her phone and spent the day being pampered at 5 o'clock. She turned her phone back on. 17 missed calls from Griffin. 6 voicemails. A dozen text messages. She listened to the first voicemail. Marina, they're at the airport. Call me back right now. The second. Marina, where are you? My parents are freaking out. There are no tickets. Dad is yelling at the airline counter. Please call me. The third. Marina, this is a disaster. Mom started crying in front of everyone. People are staring. I need you to fix this. Marina deleted the rest of the voicemails without listening to them. Instead, she took a selfie in the spa's relaxation room, her face glowing from the facial, a cucumber water in her hand. She posted it to social media with the caption, "Taking care of myself with my hard-earned bonus. Sometimes you have to put yourself first." Within minutes, the post had 3 likes and 2 comments. One from college friend, "You look amazing. Where is this?" The other from Griffin's cousin, "Good for you. Self-care is so important." Marina drove home feeling more relaxed than she had in months. Griffin's truck was in the parking lot when she arrived, but the apartment was dark. She found him sitting in the living room in the dark, still wearing the same clothes from the morning. "How was the airport?" Marina asked, turning on a lamp. Griffin looked up at her with red-rimmed eyes. "You know how it was?" "Actually, I don't. I wasn't there. They waited for 3 hours. Dad kept going to the desk, asking about our reservation. Mom kept calling me, asking why the tickets weren't there yet. Finally, a supervisor came over and told them there was no booking under our name. That must have been embarrassing. Other passengers were watching. Some teenager filmed Dad yelling at the airline employee. It'll probably end up on social media. Marina sat down in the chair across from him. What happened after that? Mom started crying. Not just tears, full-on sobbing. Dad got mad and started yelling at me in front of everyone. Security came over and told us we needed to calm down or leave. So you left. What choice did I have? Griffin's voice cracked. Marina, you should have seen their faces. They looked so hurt, so confused. Mom kept asking why I would do this to them. What did you tell them? I told them there was a mix-up with the travel agent. Marina shook her head. Griffin, there was no travel agent. I know that, but I couldn't tell them the truth. What's the truth? Griffin looked at her like she had asked him to solve calculus. The truth is my wife won't pay for a family vacation. No, Marina said. The truth is you promised your parents something you couldn't deliver. The truth is you tried to spend money that wasn't yours without asking. The truth is you lied to them for days instead of telling them you made a mistake. Griffin's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID and winced. It's Mom again, he said. She's been calling every 10 minutes. Answer it. I can't. She's too upset. Griffin, answer the phone. Griffin let go to voicemail. A minute later, it rang again. She's not going to stop calling, Marina said. Griffin answered on the fourth ring. Hi, Mom. His voice was barely a whisper. I know. I'm sorry. No, I don't know what happened. He paused, listening. Marina? She's right here. Another pause. No, I don't think that's a good idea. Mom, please don't. Griffin hung up and looked at Marina with panic in his eyes. They're coming over, he said. When? Now. Marina felt a smile tug at her lips. Good. I have some things I want to say to them. Griffin paced the living room like a caged animal, while Marina made herself a cup of tea. She had changed into comfortable clothes, jeans, and a sweater, and pulled her hair back into a ponytail. She wanted to look relaxed when the Caldwells arrived. Marina, please, Griffin said. Don't make this worse. I'm not making anything worse. I'm just existing. You know what I mean. Don't start a fight with them. Marina sat on the couch with her tea. I don't start fights, Griffin. I finish them. 20 minutes later, car doors slammed in the parking lot. Heavy footsteps pounded up the stairs. Griffin opened the door before his parents could knock. Lorna Caldwell burst into the apartment like a storm front. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared from crying, and her face was red with fury. Richard followed behind her, his jaw clenched and his hands balled into fists. Where is she? Lorna demanded. Mom, please calm down, Griffin said. Calm down. Calm down. Lorna's voice rose to a shriek. Your wife humiliated us in front of hundreds of people, and you want me to calm down? Marina stood up slowly, cradling her teacup. Hello, Lorna. Richard. Lorna spun toward her. You. How could you do this to us? Do what? Don't play dumb, Richard said, stepping forward. You sabotaged our trip. You moved the money so we couldn't go. Marina took a sip of her tea. I moved my money, yes. Our money, Lorna corrected. Family money. No, Marina said calmly. My money. That I earned. At my job. We stood at that airport for 3 hours, Lorna said, her voice breaking. 3 hours, waiting for tickets that were never coming. Do you know how that felt? I imagine it felt embarrassing, Marina said. But that's what happens when you make plans with money you don't have. We had the money. Richard shouted. Griffin told us you got a bonus. I did get a bonus. Griffin doesn't get to decide how I spend it. He's your husband. Lorna screamed. Marriage means sharing everything. Marina set down her teacup and looked at Griffin. He was standing by the door, staring at the floor. Griffin, Marina said, do you want to explain to your parents how marriage actually works? Griffin didn't look up. Marina, please. No, Griffin. They think marriage means I hand over my paycheck to fund their vacations. Please, explain to them how wrong they are. Griffin said nothing. Fine, Marina said. I'll explain it myself. She turned back to Lorna and Richard. Marriage is a partnership. It's not a license to steal. When Griffin told you I would pay for your trip, he was lying. He never asked me. He never discussed it with me. He just assumed he could spend my money without my permission. You're his wife. Lorna said, you should want to do nice things for his family. What? Because we're your family now. Marina laughed, and the sound was cold. Really? Is that why you call my mother white trash? Is that why you said I wouldn't have anything without Griffin? Is that how you treat family? We were upset, Richard said. You were being selfish. I was being honest. There's a difference. You're destroying this family, Lorna said, tears starting again. All our friends know we were supposed to go to Paris. What am I supposed to tell them? Tell them you couldn't afford it. We could afford it if you weren't so greedy. Marina felt something snap inside her chest. Greedy? I work 60 hours a week. I've never asked Griffin for money. I've never asked you for money. I pay half the rent on this apartment, half the utilities, half the groceries. I bought my own car, I pay my own insurance, and I funded my own education. What exactly have I taken from you? You took our son, Lorna said quietly. The room went silent. Marina stared at Lorna, then at Richard, then at Griffin. Excuse me, you took our son, Lorna repeated. He used to call us every day. He used to come over for dinner twice a week. He used to remember our birthdays and anniversaries. Now he's too busy with you. Marina turned to Griffin. Is that true? Griffin finally looked up from the floor. Marina, you don't understand. Do you call your parents every day? Not every day, but do you go to dinner twice a week? Sometimes we're busy. Griffin, answer the question. Do you go to dinner twice a week? Griffin's face was red. We used to. Before you married me? Yes. Marina nodded slowly. I see. So when you married me, you stopped being your parents' little boy. And somehow that's my fault. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. Marina turned back to Lorna and Richard. Let me be very clear about something. I didn't take your son. Your son chose to marry me. He chose to build a life with me. And if he's not calling you every day anymore, maybe it's because he's finally growing up. Growing up. Richard stepped toward Marina. Growing up means taking care of your parents. It means showing respect and gratitude. Respect is earned, Richard. Gratitude is earned. Screaming at me in my own home doesn't earn either one. This is our son's home too, Lorna said. And you've poisoned him against us. Marina looked at Griffin again. Have I poisoned you against your parents, Griffin? Griffin opened his mouth, then closed it again. Griffin, Marina said, answer your mother's question. Have I turned you against them? This is ridiculous, Griffin mumbled. No, Griffin. What's ridiculous is 3 grown adults ganging up on me because I won't pay for their vacation. What's ridiculous is my husband standing there saying nothing while his parents call me greedy and selfish. What's ridiculous is this entire conversation. Marina walked to the door and opened it. I think you should leave, she said. We're not leaving until this is resolved, Richard said. It is resolved. The answer is no. No, I won't pay for your trip. No, I won't apologize for earning money. And no, I won't let you treat me like garbage in my own home. Griffin, Lorna said, turning to her son. Are you going to let her throw us out? Griffin looked from his mother to his wife, his face pale and sweaty. Griffin, Marina said quietly. Choose. Don't make me choose, he whispered. I'm not making you choose. They are. Your mother just asked if you're going to let me throw them out. That means she wants you to choose between respecting your wife's wishes or respecting theirs. So choose. Griffin stood there for a long moment, his mouth opening and closing. Finally, he spoke. Mom, maybe you should go home. We're all upset. We can talk about this later. Lorna stared at him like he had slapped her. Griffin, just for tonight, Mom. We'll figure this out tomorrow. Richard grabbed Lorna's arm. Come on, we're not wanted here. Richard, wait, Griffin said, but his parents were already heading for the door. Don't call us, Lorna said, not looking back. Don't come over for dinner. Don't pretend you care about us anymore. You've made your choice. They left, slamming the door behind them. Griffin stood in the middle of the living room, looking lost. Feel better? He asked. Actually, yes, Marina said. I feel much better. They're never going to forgive you. Good. I don't want their forgiveness. Griffin stared at her. What's that supposed to mean? Marina closed the door and turned back to him. It means I'm done pretending to be someone I'm not. I'm done apologizing for things I didn't do wrong. And I'm done being married to you. The words hung in the air between them. Griffin's face went white. What? I'm filing for divorce, Griffin. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Griffin sank onto the couch. Marina, please. We can work this out. I'll talk to my parents. I'll make them apologize. It's too late for that. No, it's not. Marriages go through rough patches. This is just a rough patch. Marina sat down across from him. Griffin, this isn't a rough patch. This is who you are. You're a man who makes promises he can't keep. You're a man who stands by while his parents insult his wife. You're a man who thinks marriage means access to someone else's bank account. That's not fair. It's completely fair. Tell me, Griffin, in 5 years of marriage, how many times have you stood up to your parents when they were wrong? Griffin didn't answer. How many times have you defended me when they criticized me? Still no answer. How many times have you made a major decision about our life together without consulting me first? Griffin's voice was barely a whisper. This is about more than just money. You're right. It's about respect. It's about partnership. It's about marrying someone who sees you as an equal instead of a bank account. I don't see you as a bank account. Really? Then explain to me why you thought you could spend $38,000 of my money without asking. Griffin ran his hands through his hair. I thought you'd want to make my parents happy. Why would I want to make them happy? They've never wanted to make me happy. They're family. No, Griffin. They're your family. I'm your wife. There's a difference. Griffin looked up at her with desperate eyes. Marina, I love you. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Griffin, you love the idea of me. You love having someone to pay half the bills and cook your dinner and make you look responsible. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you would have asked before planning that trip. If you loved me, you would have defended me at that dinner table. If you loved me, you wouldn't have let your parents call me greedy and selfish for working hard and earning money. Griffin started crying then, ugly tears that made his face red and blotchy. Please don't leave me, he said. I'll change. I'll be better. Marina felt something that might have been pity, but she pushed it down. Griffin, you're 36 years old. If you were going to change, you would have done it by now. That's not true. People change all the time. Some people do. You're not one of them. Marina stood up and walked to the bedroom. She pulled her suitcase out of the closet and started packing clothes. Griffin followed her. Where are you going? A hotel. For how long? Until I find an apartment. Marina, please. Don't do this. We could go to counseling. We can figure this out. Marina folded a sweater and placed it in the suitcase. Griffin, there's nothing to figure out. You showed me exactly who you are tonight. You're a man who chooses his parents over his wife. You're a man who makes promises with other people's money. You're a man who stands by and watches while the people he claims to love get torn apart. I was trying to keep the peace. No, you were being a coward. Griffin flinched like she had hit him. Marina continued packing. I'll have my lawyer contact you next week about the divorce papers. You've already talked to a lawyer? I called one yesterday. Griffin stared at her. You planned this. I plan to protect myself. There's a difference. What about our apartment? Our furniture? Our life together? Marina zipped up her suitcase. Keep the apartment. Keep the furniture. You're going to need them when you move your parents in. Griffin's face crumpled. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Griffin. If it were fair, you would have asked me before promising your parents a trip to Paris. If it were fair, your parents would have offered to contribute to the cost instead of expecting me to pay for everything. If it were fair, you would have stood up for me instead of letting them call me names. Marina carried her suitcase to the living room. Griffin followed, still crying. This is really it, he asked. 5 years of marriage, and you're just walking away? Marina put on her coat and picked up her purse. Griffin, I walked away the moment you announced that trip without asking me. I walked away when you let your parents call me selfish for earning my own money. I walked away when you chose to be their son instead of my husband. I'm just now making it official. She opened the door and looked back at him one more time. You want some advice? Call your parents. Tell them the truth about what happened. Tell them you made a mistake when you promised them something you couldn't deliver. Stop blaming me for your problems and start taking responsibility for your choices. And if I do that, if I tell them the truth, will you consider staying? Marina smiled, but there was no warmth in it. No, Griffin. I won't. Some things can't be fixed. Some trust can't be rebuilt. Some words can't be taken back. She left him standing in the doorway, crying like a child who had broken his favorite toy. 2 months later, Marina sat on the deck of her new cabin, a glass of wine in her hand and a view of snow-capped mountains stretching to the horizon. The down payment had taken most of her bonus, but the mortgage payments were manageable on her salary. More importantly, every payment was hers and hers alone. Callie had driven up from Seattle for the weekend and was stretched out on the other deck chair, reading a book. "Any word from the ex?" Callie asked without looking up. "His lawyer called mine yesterday," Marina said. "Griffin wants to split the bonus. Even though you moved it before he touched it, he claims it's marital property because I earned it while we were married." Callie snorted. "Good luck with that argument." Marina's lawyer had been very clear about Washington state's property laws. Because Marina had moved the bonus into a separate account before Griffin could access it, and because she could prove the money came from her individual performance at work, it would likely be considered separate property in the divorce. "What about the debts?" Callie asked. 50-50 split, just like I wanted." Griffin had been horrified to learn that he would be responsible for half the credit card debt he had accumulated over the years. His parents had offered to help, but their finances were tighter than they had let on. Richard's consulting work had dried up, and Lorna's medical bills were higher than expected. That Marina's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at the screen and saw Griffin's name. "The grieving widower." Callie asked. "He wants to know if I'll consider couples counseling." "What are you going to tell him?" Marina deleted the message without responding. "Nothing. I told him everything I needed to say. He's not giving up. He will eventually. Griffin doesn't have the stamina for a long fight." Marina was right. 2 weeks later, Griffin signed the divorce papers without contest. He couldn't afford to drag out a legal battle, and his lawyer had made it clear that he was unlikely to get any of the bonus money. The cabin was quiet in a way that Marina's apartment had never been. No television blaring in the background. No phone calls from demanding in-laws. No husband sulking because she wouldn't fund his family's lifestyle. Just wind through the pine trees and the occasional call of a hawk circling overhead. Marina had taken 2 weeks off work to settle into the new place. She spent her days hiking the trails that crisscrossed the mountain, reading books by the fireplace, and planning improvements to the property. She was thinking about adding a hot tub to the deck and maybe expanding the kitchen. On her last day of vacation, Griffin called. Marina stared at his name on her phone screen for a long moment, then answered. "What do you want, Griffin?" "I wanted to apologize," he said. His voice sounded small and tired. "For what?" "For everything. For the trip, for my parents, for not standing up for you. You were right about all of it." Marina walked to the edge of the deck and looked out at the mountains. "Okay, that's it. Just okay. What did you expect, Griffin?" "I don't know. Maybe you'd consider giving me another chance." Marina felt something that might have been amusement. "Why would I do that?" "Because I've changed. I told my parents the truth about what happened. I told them they were wrong to expect you to pay for the trip. I told them they owe you an apology." "What did they say?" Griffin was quiet for a moment. "They said if I chose you over them, I'd be making the biggest mistake of my life." "And what did you tell them?" "I told them I already made the biggest mistake of my life when I didn't choose you the first time." Marina had to admit it was a good line, but it was also about 6 months too late. "That's very poetic, Griffin, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't. No, you didn't choose me when it mattered. You chose me now because you're alone and broke and your parents can't bail you out anymore. That's not the same thing. That's not true, isn't it? Griffin, are you living with your parents now?" Silence. "I'll take that as a yes." "Are they helping you pay your bills?" "Marina, are they, Griffin?" "They're helping a little bit, just until I get back on my feet." "So you chose me now because you need me, not because you love me. Not because you respect me, because you're in trouble and you think I can fix it. That's not fair." Marina sat back down in her chair. "Griffin, do you remember what you said to me the night we fought about the trip?" "Which part?" "You said it was just money. You said I was being dramatic. I was wrong about that. You were wrong about a lot of things. But here's what you still don't understand. It was never about the money. It was about respect. It was about partnership. It was about you seeing me as someone worth consulting before you make major decisions about our life. I understand that now. No, you don't. If you understood it, you wouldn't be calling me asking for another chance. You'd be calling to tell me you understand why I left, and you hope I'm happy. Griffin was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was thick with tears. Are you happy? Marina looked out at the mountains, at the hawks circling overhead, at the deck where she planned to install a hot tub. Yes, she said. I'm happy. I miss you. I know you do. Do you miss me? Marina thought about it honestly. Did she miss having someone to cook dinner for? Did she miss having someone to share the bed with? Did she miss the routine of married life? No, she said. I don't. Griffin made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. I guess I deserve that. Griffin, I want you to listen to me very carefully. What happened between us wasn't some tragic misunderstanding. It wasn't a failure to communicate. You show me exactly who you are, and I believed you. You're a man who makes promises he can't keep. You're a man who lets other people fight his battles. You're a man who thinks love means access to someone else's bank account. I can change. Maybe you can, but you'll have to prove that to someone else. I'm done. Marina hung up before Griffin could respond. She turned off her phone and went inside to make dinner. 6 months later, Marina was promoted to Director of Operations, a job that came with a significant raise and the opportunity to travel. She bought a new car with cash, a small SUV perfect for mountain roads, and started planning a trip to Europe. Paris, maybe. She had always wanted to see the Louvre. Her mother called from Florida, where she had retired the previous year. How's the cabin? Janet asked. Perfect. Quiet. Any regrets about the divorce? Marina was sitting on her deck again, watching the sunset paint the mountains pink and gold. None, she said. Good girl. Your father would have been proud. I think he would have told me to dump Griffin years ago. Probably. But you had to figure it out for yourself. After her mother hung up, Marina opened her laptop and started browsing vacation rentals in Paris. She found a small apartment near the Latin Quarter, available for 2 weeks in the spring. The price was reasonable, less than it would have cost to take 4 people to Paris, and infinitely more enjoyable. She booked it immediately, using her own credit card and her own money. Later that evening, Callie called. Guess who I saw at the grocery store today? Callie said. I'm afraid to ask. Griffin and his mother. She was lecturing him about the price of organic vegetables while he pushed the cart. Marina laughed. Did they see you? Oh, yes. Griffin looked like he wanted to crawl under a rock. His mother pretended not to recognize me. How did he look? Tired. Older. Like someone who's finally learning what his choices cost. Marina felt no satisfaction in hearing about Griffin's struggles. She felt nothing at all, which was exactly what she had hoped for. Any word on the divorce settlement? Callie asked. Finalized last week. The bonus was ruled separate property, just like my lawyer predicted. Griffin gets to keep the apartment and pay off the credit cards by himself. Justice. Karma. Marina closed her laptop and went inside to pour herself another glass of wine. Through the kitchen window, she could see the lights of other cabins scattered across the mountainside, small warm points in the gathering darkness. She had worked for this peace. She had earned this quiet. She had fought for this independence, and she was never, ever giving it up.